everybody. Thank you very much for participating to at the second CHAINSTEP expert talk. We started just 3 weeks ago to set up this special format where we every 3 weeks around we want to have a special presentation on a certain topic, invite experts besides experts from CHAINSTEP to present and to give the opportunity to the audience to discuss with us. Today we have a very important, as we think, topic on the table, which is blockchain for the maritime business. And we are very happy to have, on the one side, Dr. Joachim Soergel as one of our important partners in that field, as one of the experts. And on the other hand, from CHAINSTEP side, Madjid Tehrani, who is working since a couple of years in that area. And both will give a presentation. And at the end, you have the opportunity to put questions. The webinar is organized in the way that our guests are muted during our presentation, but you have the opportunity to put your questions live as well. So in that case, please either put your question or tell us this over the chat, or raise your hand, and then we can add you as a discussion partner to this webinar. This webinar is recorded and we will distribute it after the session in this mode in which you are at the moment. Nobody can see that you are in, so your privacy is secured. But as soon as we add you with your and put you as a discussion partner, so you would be able to speak, then you would be visible. So this is just out of clarification reason that you know how this works. Yeah, our presentation will be around 40 minutes in total. I will start to explain 2-3 minutes something about CHAINSTEP, and then Joachim takes over to discuss about his 2 companies. So he's in a transition at the moment from portum to inveni portum, and he will explain about this and explain about the market side. So how does the market for maritime look like today, and what are the main challenges, and where could blockchain and should blockchain support? And then Madjid gives an overview about the actual status, what different developments are there, and gives us some insight as well about different approaches and how to enter that kind of business, or how to use these new kind of emergent platforms. So first of all, let me briefly introduce CHAINSTEP. CHAINSTEP is a company which has been founded around 3 years ago. We are working under the motto, we bring blockchain to the real economy, and that is exactly what we do. So we focus on existing businesses, we support them by training, by consulting, and meanwhile the majority of our task is help the traditional business to implement solutions where blockchain plays an important part. On our website, you have a lot of free content which might help you to understand the space of blockchain and how it can be used in the enterprise business. We have made a couple of webinars, mainly in German, but some in English as well. We organized and were part of different events. There are certain articles about blockchain in the different areas, and what has a high usage as well is we are collecting since 4 years now, so it started a year before CHAINSTEP has been started, the most important use cases, and they are on our website. Meanwhile, it's almost 800, which you can select according to the industry where you are, and you can get a first information about what's going on in the space. It's not too many details. Mainly it's a link to some articles also, or to a website, but I know from a lot of people that help them to get started to understand the potential of blockchain. One important part, of course, is to deliver. And we just recently put first projects, what we conducted, on our website. These projects have different icons, and on our starting on the homepage, you see some of these projects. Here down to the left, it's the logo for the Maritime Business, and if you click on this logos, you see further information. So for the maritime economy, here you always get some very first brief information. What are the challenges? What is the solution? And what is the status? And where do you get more information? There, if we speak about very concrete projects like car registration, for instance, what we are doing, you'll get even more information. But it's not meant to be a kind of detailed analysis of the different projects, just the first information, so you get a clue about how we approach that business and what is the basic potential there. In the area of the maritime business, we are very happy since meanwhile more than half a year. In last November, we signed the MOU together with, at that time, the name was Protein Services. So Joachim, you will explain a bit later. So Protein is an expert company for this maritime business, especially for the port business. And we together want to combine our skills and our know-how to convey the message and to work out the different potential use cases for blockchain in the maritime business. And I'm very happy, as said at the beginning already, to have Joachim here today. And he will explain now, first of all, about his company and the switch in his company, which is taking place in these days. And after this, about the demand in the maritime business in these days. Sorry, Joachim, please take over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Frank, and a warm welcome to the participants. Good afternoon. Just to give you a short overview about our company, inveni Portum Solution is a specialized company for planning, implementation, management solutions in maritime, port, and logistics sector. The company was founded in 2006 in Hamburg, Germany, and under the name Protein Service, and is now a daughter company of CSEN Engineering Company, a global market leader for civil engineering in maritime port projects. We have a very strong international footprint, doing most of our project outside Germany. At the moment, we're working in Beirut Port, in Dar es Salaam Port, in Georgia, Poti Port, in Ghana, Takoradi Port, or Kenya, in Mombasa Port. In Germany and Europe, we mostly carrying out commercial and IT-related projects, meaning merger and acquisition project or process integration projects for implementing new IT systems. Our clients are private companies, private port operators, shipping line companies, towage companies, integrated logistic companies, but also investors, lenders, and of course also on the other side we work for public institutions like port authorities or DFIs. Next, please. Just give you a very brief overview about the current situation in the maritime transport industry. In 2018, approximately 19.5 trillion US dollar global trade volume, which is tripling to 2000 to year 2000, and this means about 11 billion metric ton global seaborne trade. This is transported mostly with a fleet of around 95,000 commercial vessels, serving 800 to 900 very active commercial seaports. Of course, there are much more seaports in the world, definitely, but most of the cargo is distributed on 800 to 900 of them. Nowadays, for most of the commodities and type of transport, maritime transport logistics is working as a highly integrated vertical door-to-door and even just-in-time solution. And the environment is highly heterogeneous and complex with large numbers of stakeholders and different institutional setup, rule models, and also individual capacity that strongly differs for each country. And this is especially on handling and processing data. The capacity is really different from country to country and stakeholder to stakeholder. Next, Frank. The maritime transport logistics is still organized to a large extent by the public sector. I mean, with public operating companies, shipping line, port operation company, in parallel with a number of global companies and a large number of medium, small size service providers, plus public institutions that have strong governance power on the whole process, like the customs. So we see a lot of different rationalities and even to some extent strong political influence on the different level of the transport process. Summing up the facts before, some can assume that annually there are some trillions of data circulating among these stakeholders, among these different levels along the transport chain. And nearly all this data are in somewhere already digitalized. Even when we have a strong paper trail still, all the data in some way already have digital format. Next. Just to give you a very, let's say, generic view on what I'm talking about when I say we have a very complex and heterogeneous situation. The large picture, maybe you cannot see it in detail, but there is a door-to-door transport chain and a sub-layer with important processes here. In the middle of this generic transport chain, there is the seaborne trade. Let's say one of these of these processes, the arrival of the vessel in a port, is related to a relatively complex process of its own. It's shown on the right side and on the lower part with the different colors. The different are marked as the stakeholders involved and the different process steps, and some even can assume that there is a layer below with more complex processes. And this is different from each port and each even country involved. So the governance structure and even the different stakeholders involved are completely different from port to port. And even here in Hamburg, we had the situation that last year there was introduced by the Hamburg Vessel Coordination Center a specific software for optimizing this kind of vessel arrival, vessel organization in Hamburg port. So you can assume that there are a number of similar systems distributed all around the world with different standards, different processes included. So, and just to give you a, let's say, a snapshot of the current complexity of IT system, and of course then related also the digital structure. Frank, we're moving to the next slide. There is a mapping of current software landscape. I don't think that this is by far completed. There are much more systems on the market, but just to give you an overview about the different fields where software is used and different types of providers, though we have really a very complex and heterogeneous situation. Moving to the next. And there is, of course, a strong incentive to streamline the process and taking or generating more efficiency by handling this data and to implement digital processes, to moving faster with the data management. And I would say the strongest driver of this process is a very strong competition between the shipping lines, mostly the shipping line, and they're desperately, I would say desperately looking for any innovation or for any change to increase efficiency and cutting cost. And one important field they have now really recognized is the improving and harmonizing of the data flows between the stakeholders. On the other hand, exactly this competition is an important impediment to come forward in this approach, because there's a lack of trust between the different competitors. And this, I see, is the strongest impediment for creating the necessary level of cooperation, for example, for standardization, harmonization. I think nowadays, because of this high pressure and this competition and the need for generating more efficiency on this side, the picture has changed a little bit. The company starting to cooperate more. Last year there was a set of the 9 of the biggest container shipping lines. They have introduced a kind of common association for the standardization of the digital data interchange, the DCSA, and they are now constantly publishing also exactly during these last weeks new standards for different type of data exchange types. For example, on smart containers, most recently they have published, and they're working in the center is the so-called bill of lading. They call it the holy grail of global trade. So this is, let's say, the core document in containerization to organize this transport chain. This is the aim for the next years to organize in a paperless way to fully digitalize this process, but that is a quite big step, and I would say that is a real challenge for the next years. Going to the next. And blockchain is really one of the technology which is seen as a possibility to reach this ambitious aim of a much higher digitalization. This is named like a disruptive improvement with regard to the data and information flows. Is this a chance, or is seen as a chance as of a setback to better organize, harmonize, and standardize this complexity with regard to data compliance, traceability, monitoring, transparency, data accuracy, etc. And the result, the big hope, which is related to this new technology, mostly with blockchain, is on the one hand to reach a better optimization, to maximizing efficiency and reliability in existing processes, to reduce the cost of trading, and to create a base for further automation and even application of new technologies, artificial intelligence. Then second layer is the extension, moving beyond efficiency to produce opportunities for new services and businesses. And then this is a last layer, the transformation approach, reinventing logistic, trade, and business model based on data-driven revenue stream and shifts in trade flows. This is a generic flow on the opportunities. Next, of course, this the demand side to generate this, the technology has to provide certain basics for the users. There must be a robust technology maintaining the integrity and uniqueness of data exchange format used alongside the supply chain. As I said before, the EBL is maybe used 8 to 10 times from different stakeholders or even more, and there is parallel and sequenced approval mechanism, and this of course needs a strong integrity of data during the whole process of approval and forwarding this document to the different stakeholders. Having a neutral and open governance mechanism rules, which is based to reach minimum level of cooperation, this so-called open collaboration. I think this is, as I described before, with regard to the competition, one of the main challenges. There are some let's say, improvements on this side most recently, but I still think this is a strong impediment on the market side. Then there is the need of horizontal and vertical system interoperability, partial integration in the existing environment, especially with the intra-organizational data exchange system. The blockchain is working as a inter-organizational data exchange between organizations, but of course the organization itself are working already for many years on optimizing their internal data flows, information flows, and using different software system. And of course, there is a need to integrate, to be interoperable with these system. Cybersecurity is self-explanatory. Integration of existing data information exchange standard, for example, the EDIFACT standard, which is at the moment let's say the common standard for electronic data interchange in maritime trade, should be supported in some way, maybe extended. Coverage of real-world complexity to a reasonable extent, and to this regard also acceptance by important stakeholders like government, authorities, banks, or insurance companies. I think here is the second big challenge for the future. This kind of parallelity, paper trail on the one hand, and on the other hand, a digital model cannot work. So the digital model really have to substitute the paper trail to a large extent, and knowing the complexity even between different countries, continents, it's difficult to believe that this can happen really on short notice. There is a big challenge behind this, and only with this high coverage of real-world complexity, it's possible from my point of view to generate this real value proposition based on blockchain adoption. Yeah. Next. Just last slide from my side. I think most of this basic question are already answered. The first item was platform versus decentralized systems. Second was the question commercial system versus non-commercial system, and related to this, the question of public institutional engagement in terms of regulation, harmonization, and funding. Factually, we have a situation that platforms are developed by big companies, on most likely on a commercial base. So we will run into a direction of a Amazon world, maybe not the same, but a variation of this. We also have this non-involvement of the public sector. So this is really something which is astonishing, that this kind of key technology and this special strategic field is not supported and by any regulation attempt and harmonization or funding attempt from larger authorities. And so we will end up in something like a world from Amazon, and there is a strong do or die adoption implication, what I call the Tesla effect. So companies in this strong competition cannot avoid to enter in some way into this world, and this is also the reason why we see this as a strategic field for us to provide integration adoption service to our clients. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joachim, and I think it was a very, very good overview of the really complex market of ports, especially, and the total maritime world. And now I'm happy to hand over to Madjid Tehrani to explain about the development in the let's say new kind of platform development. Yeah, but you will explain, Madjid.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Soergel, for explaining the demand side. I'm going to briefly address the supply side, and mainly my focus will be on technological aspects of the supply. And in this slide, I'm going to explain about the existing solutions in the market. These are well-selected number of solutions, but not showing 100% of the supply and the solutions that are working in the market. There are some good examples that are not included in these slides, but at least these solutions are a very good example of what market delivered at this time. For the first example, TRADELENS, in the scope of covering all processes from stuffing a container to stripping the container and covering all events inside the end-to-end or door-to-door process, and also processing all electronic documents is the first example. The second example is GSBN, and it is providing the same level of services that TRADELENS is providing. T-mining is another solution provided by Antwerp-based startup. It is just focusing on electronic documents, and at the current moment it is working on release order. and it is providing secure release services. ROBOP is also another release order solution provided by Dacosi, and also Secure Cargo is a comprehensive and well-designed solution for providing door-to-door services. And also WaveVL is just providing EBL at this time. These are 6 systems, and as you can see, they are using different blockchain platforms. Most of them are using Hyperledger Fabric. At least TRADELENS, GSPN, and ROBOP are using Hyperledger Fabric. And T-Mining and Secure Cargo are using Ethereum. Hyperledger Borrow is also a solution based on Ethereum. And the WaveVL is using Litecoin, which is a blockchain protocol based on Bitcoin. In terms of the readiness to use TRADELENS and T-Mining, and almost GSPN and also WaveVL are fully operational, and they are ready to fly. Some ports and ocean carriers and shippers are working, and it is progressing to onboard new members. And also the other 2 are at the development and quality assurance and control and final stage to be ready for delivering to the market. The technology providers, as you can see in the last row, are IBM for TRADELENS, CargoSmart for GSPN, T-Mining for T-Mining solution, Dacosi, and DHL and Wave. And we are observing that market at this time is full of good solutions and reliable solutions that can provide the advantages and promises and the big hope that Dr. Soergel pointed to the market. Please proceed to the next slide, Frank. So with this array of solutions, the question is that how they are different strategically, because in terms of tactical concepts, you can see all of them are dealing with electronic documents, and all of them are dealing with time events or process events. So the main question is that what is the strategic definition? And what is the strategic difference and how they are differentiating? Here I'm going to propose a paradigm which divide these type of solutions into 2 different type of categories. The first is maximum sharing philosophy. By maximum sharing philosophy, we mean that every data, every event and every business document inside the platform will be accessible, of course, in a secure way for network participants, whether it is a private blockchain or public blockchain. But if you are a member of the network, you will have access to this type of digital assets. And by maximum privacy philosophy, we mean only authorized party will have access to data and business documents. And this will be possible based on an access policy or some type of authorization policy at the network level. So the advantage is clear. In the first type, everybody will see everything. This is a real peer-to-peer network. And in the second type of privacy philosophy, only authorized party based on the governance policy will see what is related to them and what is, must be shown to their eyes. The point is here is that in maximum sharing philosophy, also there are some sort of policies for de-anonymization of the data or de-identification of the data. And by anonymization of data and de-identification, it is possible to hide the real owner of the data in theory, but in practice, in some cases, it is quite possible to, have an inference and understand who was the, party working on that consignment case. So we have to accept the philosophy. If this is about sharing, it is about sharing. Because at the end of the day, some participants, same as software aggregators or port community systems or innovative companies will see the data and they can provide a value on top of that. And if this is about privacy, it means that it is fully protected. It is trying or driving toward having a mandatory access control authorization model on the blockchain network. So these are the main differences, but also there are some shortcomings for each type of these blockchain design philosophies. For the sharing philosophy, we have higher risk of disruption, and we don't know that necessarily all of these disruptions are ending to a good result or not. And also for the maximum privacy philosophy, the disadvantage maybe is that it is more complex comparing to other one in terms of designing, implementation, testing, quality control, verification of the solution, and also operationalization. Would you please drive to the next slide? Yeah, here I just want to give you two examples of these design philosophies. The first one on the left-hand side is TRADELENS, and the second one on the right-hand side is GSPN. The first one is following maximum sharing philosophy, and the second one on the right-hand side, GSPN, is following the maximum privacy philosophy. And I just want to give you key differences from the technological aspect. It deserves to discuss about the commercial aspect, but maybe it's necessary to allocate another independent session to discuss about the impact of these philosophies on the commercial level. But from the technology point of view, what we must know is that when we are dealing with a solution that is following the maximum sharing philosophy, its confidentiality is totally different with the confidentiality of the other type of design. In TRADELENS, for example, data sharing specification is available to almost everybody, and everybody can see what type of rights are designed to be available for network participants. And based on the DSS, everybody can read or have the access to some sort of data, including business documents, even after the identification. Still, as I explained earlier, it is possible that you can find out what is this data about. And in terms of confidentiality, in contrast, in the privacy philosophy, everything is fully encrypted. You won't give any bit of data the permission going out before you fully encrypt that element. So everything is just visible for someone who has the keys and the right to decrypt that element. So this is a very key technological difference and must be considered when we are trying to, build or join one of these platforms. The other one is that about data ownership. In sharing philosophy, data belongs to the platform, but in privacy philosophy, data belongs to the data producer. So after you are giving the data to the network, still you have ownership control, still you have governance, and you can keep your data. In terms of performance improvement, the door for any type of optimization is open in sharing philosophy. And everybody who is a member of the network can do lots of optimizations and process mining and data mining. And but what was the big hopes that Dr. Soergel pointed to that is possible in sharing philosophy. You can reduce the complexity on the process level, on the technology level, on the even customs regimes or legal infrastructure, because you have a full, visibility on every event happening in the world, every business documents, and you can solve lots of optimization problems. But in the privacy philosophy, it is not possible that you just be a super innovative, disruptive startup or innovator that wants to, change everything dramatically. It is not possible. everything is in hand of the funding members of the consortiums, and process mining and optimization and data analytics will be possible if and only if funding members of the consortium decide and approve that. In terms of security, all of them are more or less same and providing best practices and good practices in the market. And they must, of course, provide such a level of security. And in terms of privacy, meaning that keeping a relationship between different parties, there is a tiny difference. In sharing philosophy, you are working in multilateral channel, while you are working in bilateral channel in privacy philosophy. Because in multilateral channel, for example, port of loading, port of destination, port of transshipment, shipper, carrier, and forwarder, and rail operator, all of them are collaborating together to deliver the cargo to the final point. And from that perspective, they are working together in a channel. But here, because the system design philosophy is protecting the privacy, they are working, in a bilateral way, and when data sharing is necessary, the platform itself will share data from one channel to another channel. So these are the two very good examples of this classification, and they are showing that blockchain utilization could be quite different. Still, blockchain could add value and deliver the promises of the technology. Would you please proceed to the next slide? So the question here is that what you can do. Do we like to build a new solution? Do we like to join one of these solutions? Here I'm trying to give you some hint about each of these decisions. These are very strategic decisions. If you like to build, you shall notice that there are pros and cons. Governance in this type of solutions is quite time consuming, and it is quite energy consuming task, because you have to define the members, define the governance framework, define the joint venture framework, many things. We will discuss a bit about that in next slide. Ownership also is quite important. It must be discussed very carefully. And also innovation and leadership are quite important. So these are the pros of building a solution. You will have the right to design a new governance model. You will own the product. You can provide different innovative solutions, and also you will be a leader in the market. But also there are some cons and challenges in building strategy. The capex is relatively considerable. Time is more or less more than 2 years, according to real-life observations. And the window or the opportunity window is very short, because there are good level of services and solutions in the market at this time. And this is not a blue ocean market anymore at this time. But also build a strategy needs some very key requirements, same as mastering different technologies and allocation of good level of budget, and skills for leadership of a network, and implement a trust between classical competitors. In the joint strategy, the scene is quite different. Pros are quick adoption. We can quickly join to one of these platforms. The cost is much lower, and integration is very quick. Yes, it is necessary that you make an integration interface between legacy systems and these modern platforms. It's a soft project, it is true, but it is easy. It's not rocket science. Cons is that it is now a decided and well-designed platform. You have less strategic options. This is what it is. If the founding members are decided about, maximum sharing or maximum privacy, you cannot be a game changer. And also, you have less maneuverability and less, choices to change the strategic direction. And also, the disruption risk could be high because you don't know what's happening in the platform. You know, at least more than 2 years before you're joining to the platform, some smart and talented, you know, maybe competitors started to design the platform. And as Dr. Soergel addressed, it is a Tesla effect. You probably must join, but you don't know the impact. So the disruption effect could be relatively high. The learning, the requirements also are different. You can, you know, join the platform, but you must learn lots of things very quickly. It needs lots of trainings. You must understand what's the, you know, security, privacy, and different, you know, access or authorization schemas inside these solutions. There are many things that your organization needs capacity building. And also, you need a good negotiation skill to optimize your position, and also, you know, strategy to join effectively and at the right time to the platform. Please, let's go to next slide to have a final decision and discussion. So as you observed, we have lots of good solutions, and they are providing good level of services, from door-to-door level of services to just focus on very strategic, you know, services, same as release order or bill of lading. And also, as I said earlier, it is possible that you join to one of existing networks, but still, you may like to, you know, design and implement one of these solutions and make something workable for your community. For example, there is still no good solution or considerable solution for break bulk or general cargo. Also, the big and giant solutions are coming from China and US, maybe other regions, same as European Union, like to have, you know, another solution. So this slide is explaining the general level and high level methodology that if you like to build one of these networks, what must be considered as the top priority. We are looking at different layers. Operation and organization and governance. This is one layer. Also, technology and value proposition and legal issues are other layers. And we are talking about 3 key process area: design as one key process area, development as another one, and go live or operationalization is another one. In the design phase, on organization and governance level, you need to do lots of negotiation to form the joint venture. And you must decide about access control policy, about the data and documents you are sharing over the network. It is quite an important task and must be done at this stage. Also, on the design, you know, key process area, for the technology, you must decide about blockchain platform. As you observe, we have Ethereum, we have Fabric, we have Bitcoin-based protocols. Also, we have other DLTs, and there are many possibilities available to you to decide. And you must decide based on your preferences and technical, you know, criteria that you are following. And also, you must decide about other technologies, complementary technologies, because blockchain is not the final solution. There are, you know, other technologies that you need to deal with them, and without them, it is not possible to make a robust solution. And also, you must consider interoperability standards at the data level, or even at a high level when you are thinking about having interoperability between transportation network and also financial network or trade network, because it is possible. There are good examples and case studies and proof of concepts that it is showing that in future, all of these blockchain platforms are going to be interoperable and work together. And also in design, key process area for value proposition, you must implement lots of design thinking workshops and decide about value proposition and use cases and the scope. And finally, you must decide about deployment, hosting, and external service providers, because different jurisdictions are bringing different impact on your data protection and also on your encryption decisions. On the development process for the organization and governance, you need to define a good team for administration and a good plan for capacity building. Also, you need to select a good team for technology and security and integration of the legacy system and testing and quality control for technology. You must test your assumptions. It is very well recommended that riskiest assumptions must be tested for value proposition and making a differentiation using such a solution. And finally, on the legal issue, you need to implement your own data protection policy, security policy, and even you may like to register a patent. As we observed, there are lots of patents already registered in the market, and the room for registration, more innovation is existing at this time. And then in the last phase for go live or operationalization, you must assign and mandate CEO, CTO, and Chief Information Security Officer or CISO. And maintenance of the solution is quite important. This technology is working for long term, and everything you're putting on the blockchain must stay for permanently on the blockchain. So maintenance is quite important. And also piloting and pivoting is quite necessary step in the value proposition. And finally, doing continuous audits will guarantee your rights in the network. This is the big picture of the processes. As Dr. Soergel pointed to, optimization, extension, and transformation. I'm telling the supply side is quite ready to provide these values. And also you can still, build a robust solution. However, the opportunity is not too high, because this is not a blue ocean anymore. Everyone who like to come must, equip itself with good level of competence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madjid. Thank you very much again, Joachim. I'm really impressed that you explained that complex topics in that compact way. I know for the audience it might be a little bit overwhelming, all this content. We will send you the recording afterwards, so you can, if you're interested, have a look again, or send it, of course, to any colleagues or to any interested people. And you have the chance to put any question you have now or later. There is already a very first one from Konstantin Graf. He wants to understand how to start a consortium. What is the minimum group of companies? So how many companies do you need to get a consortium started? Madjid, I think this is a good question for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, in terms of quantity, there is no number, but in terms of the concept and the scope, they shall provide a community level concept. For example, it could be the association of customs brokers, or association of shipping agencies, or for example, the shippers for a specific cargo, for example, for car or for foods, or a community that they are working. In some cases, they may compete to each other, but together they can make a platform for data exchange, and also they can, somehow manage, the long-term benefits in the market. So it is quite open in terms of selecting the members. The minimum group must be participants that they are following a common mission in the market. So it could be a group of port operators, or a group of freight forwarders, or the other examples that I already addressed, or even the shippers, or the consignments.
Maybe
Okay.
I can also add something to those questions. I think here we have two concepts. We have discussed a lot of cargo trade-driven platforms on blockchain, which, I mean, global trade is something what is maybe more addressing bigger companies controlling volumes to step in for developing such a platform. But there are a lot of technical niche solutions that also could be solved by a blockchain solution. Today I learned, for example, that in Hamburg there is a startup company that has developed as a now global market leader a digital vessel log file system. And of course, this triggers the same audience of shipping lines. There are a lot of regulation related to this, and there is still a lot of paperwork inside this. It is done now still mostly in a paper trail. And this small company has started to digitalize this and even to set up standard together with ISO for the digitalization of this vessel log. And I think there are a number of other industry-specific operational and technical aspects like vessel maintenance and so on, which could be also a very good playing ground for blockchain solution and targeting, let's say, the same audience, and can be later on even interconnected to these global platforms. But we have presented, let's say, at least these two big ones. What Madjid has presented are some, you can say, global platforms.
Yes, thank you very much. There's a second question in this area. Is it possible that some companies are paid or incentivized for providing data?
I can give you the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
In the status quo, there is no incentive for paying the data, for payment for giving your data to the platform. You are receiving a good level of data analytics or business reporting or business intelligence, and opportunity to deal with the data which is available in the network. And also in future, I still don't think that this will be an option for data producers, because these platforms are trying to add value with different value proposition strategies, and sooner or later I'm expecting that they could arrive or achieve to lock-in and red queen effect, and then you just must join and deliver your data. Otherwise, for example, different customs regime may take longer to process your declaration, and these solutions are quite a strong source of confidence and trust for authorities and customs, because they are gathering the data very carefully and very securely from different sources, and from that perspective for customs risk management and this type of regulation and authority level practices, they are very good tools. So in future, the customers of this type of solutions will be also this type of authorities and compliance parties. And from that perspective, I don't expect that in future also it become possible that someone receive money for giving the data. It is possible that someone lose lots of opportunities, or lose lots of time, or spend more cost if he or she is not working with this type of platforms.
I also want to ask something and then to add something to Madjid's answer. First of all, I think it's my understanding, I'm not a super expert in this, but as much as I understood from this, how these commercial models on this platform work is still a little bit a black box. So who can develop, for example, apps on this platform or value propositions, and on what kind of business model, on license model, that is, I think is totally open still, and it's not clear. I think they have first also to solve a number of technical questions and to really understand how much value they can create on this kind of platforms before they starting this next level. But my question to Madjid is based on what was questions from the audience. With the membership or in these platforms, is there any obligation to provide data or to implement a certain kind of interface with own data flows towards these platforms?
Let me give you an example for TRADELENS. In TRADELENS, the name of one of the matrices for onboarding process is exactly data provisioning, matrix, data provisioning obligation matrix. So it is actually some sort of contractual obligation to give a specific set of data to the platform.
Yeah, that's also my understanding. So maybe this also answers the question a little bit.
Yeah, quite interesting. And what I can add is, of course, it's extremely important to understand the governance structure of the platform economy you're entering. So who is setting the rules and who is steering the system. And it is very important to differentiate in a proper way how much privacy you must keep, and how can you add value and receive value by sharing data. I think this is really a key question, and it is worth to dig into this topic at the very beginning when you start to analyze these different offerings. Yeah. So at the moment, there is no further question. My proposal is we are already entering the end of the first hour. We should keep it in this limit to my understanding. And if there's any interest, of course, we would be very happy to have a second version of this expert talk topic, yeah, because there's so many movement in that area. So we are working in that field all together anyway. So as soon as we see a development where it makes sense to have an update talk on that maritime business, we will set up another call or another talk. Thank you very much for joining and for being continuously in the talk. If you have any questions after the expert talk, please feel free to contact us. We will send you an email with the link, so you have the recording, and please share it. I said it again, because for us it's very helpful that a lot of people understand what's going on there, which are already in that kind of business. I wish you all a very, very good evening. So at the moment we have 6 o'clock in the evening in Germany, and good development of your business. And once again, thank you very much, Dr. Soergel and Madjid, for preparing all the stuff and to explaining, for taking the time. And hope to see and to speak to all of you soon again. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.